Today was the fourth day of school. Not a lot has happened in terms of teaching. We are surviving forms, files, and any number of to-do items. And in the midst of all this haste, we have shuffled quite a few number of students around. The act or art of shuffling intrigues me, and I guess the reason I'm drawn to this is because at the end of the matter, what we are shuffling around isn't numbers or class loads, it isn't credits or degree plans, it's people. Two instances this week have stuck with me, and both have spoken to this notion of people shuffling. Both involve students who probably shouldn't be in my class, but for one reason or another have caught my attention, and I have made the effort to go after these two kids. One is a social misfit who can't be understood when she speaks. She mumbles, she has a large mohawk, and she has red contacts. But there is something about her to which I'm drawn, and I have no idea what this is. The other student is a child whose reputation precedes him. He's largely a slick, fly-by-the-seat-of-his-pants student who generally joins things only to quit them. I don't have great hope that he won't quit on me. It's unwise to not acknowledge the past, but despite his history, I'm drawn to him, and I can't quit on him yet. These two instances in which I sought these students out were met with some resistance from others. "What are you thinking?" was the refrain of the day. When I taught at South Houston, I found myself in the assistant principal's office a lot. All these bad kids attracted me. I used to scoop them up and recruit them and take them back to class with me. Maybe I'm one of them at heart. I don't know. Or perhaps I find their bad stories are rich fodder from which to draw and make them better storytellers. Again, I do not know. Whatever the reasons are that I'm drawn to these kids, I very much dislike the notion of being asked, "What are you thinking?" And I've given the question a little thought because perhaps it's a valid one. I mean, shouldn't I be recruiting the quarterback and the head cheerleader? Shouldn't I go after the homecoming king and queen? Shouldn't I be building my department with popular children? Maybe. But in an attempt to articulate the feelings of my heart and the thinkings of my mind, here is what I think on the issue of shuffling kids into my room. 1. No child left behind. This law was a silly attempt at best to put into practice what great educators have been doing for years, seeking the very best in every student and moving all students to achievement. The thought of not failing even one student is admirable, and while this piece of legislation sought to increase scores, I see it as a calling to speak to the heart of every student. And this speaking looks a lot like helping each child to see his or her potential, of empowering each student to know that he or she is worthy, and instilling in each person who darkens my door that he or she is welcome. In this framework, the idea of leaving anyone behind seems cruel at best. Let us operate from this mindset. You aren't shuffled here. You are wanted here. 2. Robert Fulghum. This wonderful author tells a great story about Norman, a chubby little guy who wanted to play the pig in Cinderella. And of course, there is not a pig in Cinderella, but this wise kindergartner's teacher created the role for this little boy, and he won over the audience by barking when Cinderella rode off with the prince. She enabled Norman to know that there was a place for him in her classroom, and when the script was written otherwise, she rewrote it. We need to create scripts full of really good stories for our students to live out. I think this is key to being a good educator. Finally, 3, if we are to do this whole education thing really well, We have to stop the notion that we are merely shuffling children through our hallways for 4 years. If that's what education is these days, then I'm out. And precisely because I know that that is not what education is these days, it's my hope that we will all reinvest in those whom we serve, particularly those whom we'd rather not serve. They are depending on us not to let them go. And so day 5 is tomorrow, and I finally get to start teaching, and I'm really excited, but I'm also really anxious. It's really bold to blog like this, as if I've got it all figured out. Admittedly, I do not. I'm sure that I do my fair share of shuffling in ways unbeknownst to me. I hope that my shuffle is more like a gentle dance coming into its own, though. And because I know this is worth it, because it has to be worth it, I'll take a stab at shuffling in a manner in which picks people up instead of letting them fall through the cracks. I will if you will. I'll take a stab at making my corner of the globe a little better if you will too. I'll start with those 2 kids who are being shuffled around my hallway. One who may very well quit on me, and one who has red eyes. With whom will you start?